What's up, everybody? And on this week's episode of Guys Talking Sports, we talk briefly on the NCAA and the predictions of who we think should make the tournament. Also, the one and dones and what the NCAA and NBA should do concerning players jumping into the league. We discuss Kevin Love and his mental health situation. We discuss the NFL, the Combine, and of course the NFL and certain owners talking about they don't want to be bothered with free agents who had stuff to do with the protesting of the flag. So stay tuned for this episode of Guys Talking Sports. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Guys Talking Sports. Once again, this is Big A, Adrian, here with the fellas. My man Earl, my man Al, coming back to you yet on another Tuesday to discuss what's going on in the world of those guys performing those athletics type stuff. So, fellas, what's going on?
I have a question. If a tree falls in the woods and no one is around, does it make a sound?
Nope.
How's everybody doing?
I'm here. Somebody's playing some old school.
Yeah, I can hear that. I can definitely hear that. That's for sure. What's going on, everybody? How everybody doing out there?
Oh, man, it's another groovy Thursday. Thursday, right? Wow. Yeah, it's not Thursday just yet. Tuesday. Man, I tell you. Lack of sleep. Anywho. So, fellas, it's been a crazy, not so crazy, kind of slow, but crazy type of a work week, sports week, I should say. Got a lot of different things that's kind of looming out there. You got, it's championship week. You know, we're starting to recognize those teams that are going to be going dancing into the big tournament. Got any type of feedback you want to speak on that? I know it's still kind of early. The big conferences haven't really played their games as of yet, but do you have any predictions? Say, just out of the blue, just pick them out of a hat type of prediction for the ACC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the SEC?
I guess I'll go. I'll put it like this. I don't have any predictions as of right now of the tournament. I will say that I would love to finally see a mid-major team win, win one. That's pretty much what I'm looking forward to. It all depends on the seedings. Excuse me. All depends on the seedings for during Selection Sunday, but I would love to see throughout this whole tournament a mid-major team go all the way this year and win it. Because that will open up a possibility for a lot of other teams. And also, real quick, before I say something, quick shout out to Rutgers women's team for being number 10. Love to see what they do in the in the tournament as well. But all in all, I'm still looking for a mid-major team win. I think that would be more exciting than anything as the tournament begins to start, I should say.
Well, Gonzaga made it pretty darn close last year. I think they played in the championship game and lost, but they were about as close as any mid-major could ever get there. And do we even really consider Gonzaga a mid-major nowadays? They're like almost like a staple.
Yeah, I mean, as far as, the whole college, basketball and the dance, I would definitely defer to your guys' more expertise opinions on this. But as far as me, like I said, I mean, a lot of the championship week, so outside of really the Big Ten, really, crowning their champion, with Michigan. I mean, I don't know if anybody else has really gotten, had a championship game yet. So, I mean, I guess you're just going to always look for those mid-majors, or those teams that are like the 11th, seed or the 10th seed, can they pull off an upset and, make a march to the dance? Me, I just look for good basketball. I mean, you're always going to have your staples in there. But I mean, as always, the NCAA, the investigations, the indictments are going to loom loom over the whole tournament.
No, well, I agree with you. And interesting that you should kind of talk about the underbelly of college basketball, so to speak. Steve Kerr came out earlier in the week and was talking about, but before I go to Steve Kerr, talk about Adam Silver possibly trying to expand the G League or developmental league to include the high-profile high school athletes that had the opportunity, if they were that good enough to kind of forego their collegiate careers and jump directly into the NBA, and how he's thinking about expanding that whole thing. Before I discuss with Steve Kerr, what do you guys think on that? Do you feel as though the one-and-done thing was a total disaster? Do you think there's a different way, a better way?
Yeah, I think the quote-unquote one-and-done, I think I get why they did it, but I think that they didn't realize how many, kids are going to actually utilize it to that extent where they basically, all right, so now you're putting in a minimum of 1 year and then at least play 1 year of basketball before you can at least think about going pro. Now kids are just saying, oh, well, all I have to do is 1 year. It's not like a minimum of 1 year before you think about it. It's like, I just got to be in school for 1 year before I go. So it's not that stopgap measure where I think it was intended to be. For me, and I think, I heard Stephen A. Smith say that, and I agree with this as well, is that if you have some kids that are either if you're going to go put your name in eligible for the draft right out of high school, then so be it. However, if you decide not to go to the draft, then you have to do at least 2 years in college basketball. For those people that go from high school to the draft and they don't get drafted, then I think that's where you have to kind of figure out, do you let them still go back to school or how does that work? But I think that if you opt not to go into the draft or you think you're ready, you got to do 2 years, minimum 2 years.
Well,
and I mean, I think it'll be overall good for the NBA as far as development of the players, because a lot of these players that are one and dones are not even ready when they come out. And I think it helps college basketball in a sense because now you have teams that stay a little bit longer and these kids develop. And I think the college basketball as a game, I think will probably, would get a little bit better. And you might start having more solid rivalries and as much parity as you have over the last maybe like several years.
I completely agree with that. And if I add on, and that's been the biggest problem with the NCAA is because of the fact that so many one and dones that the competition in the NCAA has completely faltered. Right now, they're just relying on the school itself. The kids, to be honest, as long as college basketball is still there, they're still going to have their fans because they're still going, it's college. So they're still going to have their fans, which in terms is going to generate they're going to have alumni as well still rooting for them. So they're going to have that constant of what's the word I'm looking for? No matter if the competition dies down, they're still going to have those fans. But it is lacking the competition at this point. So if anything, they should be working on ways to better the competition. And no way to better the competition is to keeping the players there for a couple of years. But like you said, it's so much relying on these one and done players because, how the way the system is set up. There needs to be some type of change. And I don't know if the NCAA is going to actually do anything about it because as long as, they have the usual college fans there and the alumni there still at the games, I think it's not going to change a thing, which is unfortunate because they lose the competition factor of it.
Well, I agree. I think the one and dones, I think it was a bad idea. But I do understand why they did it because the Kevin Garnett's, the Moses Malone's, the Kobe Bryant's, the LeBron James of the world's, possibly Kevin Durant might have if he had that opportunity. Or one of the, a dime a dozen. I mean, I rattled off 7 names over the course of 4 years. Though it was a good idea on paper, it didn't work out that great. Now, I think I agree with Earl. I agree with both of you, actually, where I believe if a kid feels as though he's getting some great advice coming out of high school, he can jump to the league, let him jump to the league. But I really think they should adopt NCAA baseball when it comes to coming out of high school. When the kid has the opportunity and they know for a fact that he can get drafted, he has the opportunity to go pro. NBA can use G League, developmental league, or whatever they want to do to develop some sort of minor league system. Moving forward, now if the player decides, you know what, I don't think I'm pro ready, then that kid has to be 3 years removed from high school. It's the same thing for football. It's the same thing for baseball. It's 3 years removed from high school. So that can include a redshirt year. And then they have to play obviously 2 years in order to be eligible for the big time, for the major, for NBA. I think that would be a better option because then the college product will be a lot better. The parity right now in college basketball probably would diminish because more top players who think they're one and done worthy will end up having to stay 3 years, so the Dukes will remain Dukes. Kentucky's will remain Kentucky's. The Blue Bloods, I should say, will still remain supreme. But at least we know, unlike what you're seeing this year in college basketball, you don't know who's going to win the NCAA tournament. There is no clear-cut favorite that you can pinpoint and say, well, I know for a fact that they can go on a 6-game win streak, X team is going to win. This year is just so much parity and so much whatever, there's just no determining factor. So I think, get the opportunity. And I'm not really keen on what Adam Silver was talking about, kind of guiding those special high school players from when they're like their freshman, sophomore year of high school all the way up and putting them in like special camps or whatever. Nah, they don't do that in baseball. They damn sure don't do it in college football. If you're good, well, definitely not college football because they're not jumping to the pros. But if you're good at baseball and scouts recognize you as being good, they'll give you that opportunity to say, hey, you have this pro opportunity here, but if not, go to college. And I think they should adopt it just like that and just make it so that there's a deeper minor league type of environment for the NBA.
So the only thing I kind of agree with you in spirit with that, what you're saying. The only problem I have is that those high school kids, if they know they can circumvent college and just go right to the G League, that's all they're going to do. Every one and done that you would have, let's say we take every one and done that we had for the last, 7, 8 years, all of them when it went to the G League, college basketball is still going to lose out. Now, I mean, for all intents and purposes, the NBA does have a farm system. It's college basketball. So, they're not going to sit there and, they have the G League for people that are currently on NBA rosters that they send down that are, need some more work. But kids will not go to college and go that route to go to the development league and then stay a year or two and then come out. So college basketball at the end still loses out. So that's why my thing is, as of right now, a lot of the kids that we see that are one and dones, if you think about in high school, none of them were really ready to come out to the NBA anyway. So it's like the NBA, I go back what I said a couple of weeks ago, the NBA doesn't have to track these kids, number one. They can just say, we're not going to do it. And if the NBA stops drafting kids out of high school, guess what? The kids are not just going to opt to go into the, into the NBA right out of high school.
But the thing about it is that if I'm a person that's a one and done or has the ability to be a one and done person, and let's say, for example, I don't get drafted into the league, NBA league and decide to go back to school. The question is, who's to say that who's to say that the coaches in the NCAA would continue to play that person going forward? Like, once you move on from the college, you're trying to go into the NBA. I don't see the benefit of them going back to school where the coach is going to say, oh, you came back? All right, we'll put you back into that same rotation. The college coaches don't have to do that. They could be like, yo, if you moved on from the school, then we can move on with the next man up on our team to lead us who may want to be fully committed to that school.
And that's where I wanted to kind of segue into what Steve Kerr said, that if these kids who declare for the draft don't get drafted, we should allow them to go back to school. I think that the kids should be allowed to go into the draft on draft night without having those who are undecided, unsure. You got the ones that are just known for a fact that they're going to get drafted. But those who have that 50-50 shot, I think should be able to go into the draft without having an actual agent or being represented by somebody. And if they don't get drafted, I like your idea of, I don't think they should be able to go back to the school that they left. I think they should then be put back into a pool and then possibly go to like a mid-major type of school or something that's a notch lower than where they were.
But the thing about it is that they do that. The NBA does have that type of system. Well, not going back to school per se, but they do have a system because when they don't get drafted after the second round, they're put into a pool where they're invited for the summer league. And they're given the opportunity to showcase in the summer league. A team may pick up someone that was undrafted to bring them as part of the summer league team to see what they can do. And if by all means the team likes what they see, then they'll put them they'll invite them or sign them to a contract with maybe their G League affiliate. So they do have some type of system in place. But I do agree that maybe they should do something more. If there should be an option, there should be another option where the kid will say, yeah, I should go back I prefer to go back to school and finish out, maybe have to redshirt a year, but finish out with another team, another school, and do it that route. So I think there should be some options in play outside of just doing that.
Yeah, to me, I guess it all boils down to, the NBA and NCAA has to work together. And right now, the NCAA right now has a lot of, has a lot of egg on their face. The only way to kill this conversation is the NBA has to say no high school kids, you got to do 2 or 3 years of college basketball if they want to, if that's the route that they want to take. It works well for the NFL. You got to do a minimum 3 years, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The last person that tried to circumvent that, that system got smacked down, quite heavily. Either you say you have to do 2 or 3 years and that's it, or you have to let them come in from high school right from the jump.
Yeah. But here's the problem. Here's the problem with that, because if they do that, then you would see a lot of one and done players and say, why would I do that? I could just go overseas and play. So how would the NBA handle that aspect of it? Because all you're doing is taking it from one and done players instead of going to college, they're going overseas to play. So how would you handle that aspect of it?
You make it a blanket 3 years. Whether you go to college or whether you go overseas, you have to do a minimum 2, maybe 3 years.
Okay. So uniform it so that for both colleges and overseas players, that it has to be a minimum. You have to play. So out of high school, 3 years, either in the NCAA or 3 years overseas before even registering for the NBA draft.
Yeah, because the NBA doesn't have to take anybody they don't want to take. And, they could just say, no, we're not going to accept high school kids. You got to have 2 or 3 years, just like the NFL does. NFL takes nobody a first-year freshman coming out there. It's 3 years, no matter what. then most kids can't play overseas or go to Canadian Football League. Canadian Football League is almost the same thing where you gotta, you know, you have to play a certain amount of years. You just make it blanket across the board. I think the NCAA will go for that because it helps their game, and then it helps to bring back some of the teams that we, used to know by name, not just the coaches, and it overall helps the development of the league. Because right now, I don't know names of players on college basketball, but I damn sure know the college coaches coming out. So, I mean, it's like either you say 2 or 3 across the board, no matter where you come from, or you're going to have to kind of let kids from high school come in.
So you don't like the idea of the kid having an option? I personally, I think if they go pro, if they decide to go pro, that sort of like how they do for NCAA baseball, the NBA would definitely have to kind of expand their minor league system. Maybe. Go ahead.
I said, and I don't think like us on now. I don't think they want to do that because their minors or their farm system is college basketball. So why pump more money into the G League when you have a perfectly good system where you're not even putting any money into and you're developing players year after year?
Yeah, but then you have the scum. You got the scandal that comes along with it, where schools are getting caught up in all this scandal when they have no idea what agents and these shoe deals and all these companies coming at these players on the side, and they have no control over it. And then you got the feds raining down their neck over things they can't control.
No, but I may have to disagree with you, Earl, on that one, because I think the NBA can benefit off of the G League, because of the fact is, if you bring in all these high school kids, it could be an option where it could help because it'll only benefit the G League, because now you'll get more people wanting to watch the G League a little bit more than what there is now. I mean, there's these G League teams, even though they're out there, they don't get the airtime like, the NBA teams would. So if you bring in let's say, for example, if LeBron James went and did, instead of 8, say I'm going to NCAA, I'm going to sign up for the G League. And if they go that route, people will want to see the G League games that he's playing because they will want to know more about him. You know how, same thing with the Summer League. The Summer League viewership rose because everybody wanted to see like Dennis Smith Jr. and Lonzo Ball play, see how they would be compared to in the actual, Summer League games. So I might think that the NBA may take interest in seeing like one and done players actually playing a G League system, because it may help bring more viewers and more fans to the G League games, which of course will generate more profits for the NBA as a whole, and completely isolate the NCAA from, doing whatever it is that they do.
And do you think that if the NBA were to expand their minor league system or developmental league or whatever you want to call it, do you think it would attract some international players, or do you think international players will stay where they are? Because it would give international players an option, just like how it gives kids here an option to go overseas to play. Could be vice versa if you kind of expand it out a little bit.
That is true. And you'll have the international fans want to be a part of the G League process, because they want to see their international stars thrive in the NBA. And even if they go into the G League, eventually somebody's going to call that person up.
And it gives opportunity to expand and put teams in markets where they necessarily wouldn't get a team.
Globally, yes.
Yeah, I guess it all depends on, how much investment the NBA really wants to put into the G League, or they really want to prop it up. And right now, they haven't given that much indication that they're really that interested in the G League.
That is true.
NCAA, you're going to probably get a lot of flack from them, because now they're saying that you're already taking from a product. You do that, and you're going to really, take from what we, don't have as much as it is right now. So somebody's going to lose either way. It's going to be whether you're going to have college basketball losing a lot of high-profile kids, or whether you just have the G League as it is right now.
I will say that the NCAA would lose because I think what the one and done's the NCAA is suffering. Me personally, because there's no, it's suffering from a blue blood standpoint because yeah, they stand to be good, but then the mid majors and the lesser D1 schools are prospering because they have more players that tend to stay 3 and 4 years versus the blue bloods who have a random rotation of kids coming through, and it's building a great sense of parity. I truly think that the NCAA would get back to what we believed the NCAA was maybe 15 years ago. When you know,
but it might take 15 years to get back to that.
no, true, very true,
But
very true.
one thing that NCAA will never lose is their fans or the alumni, no matter what. So as long as the fans and the alumni are still there, it's going to stay consistent. Whether I don't think there would be a decline when it comes to the NCAA because you're going to always have. I mean, it's a constant growth because each colleges keep producing more fans, whether it's incoming people, freshmen coming in, or alumni leaving it. They're still going to continue to have those fans going forward. So I don't think that NCAA will lose anything. I mean, like I said before, except for maybe the quality of competition because of the one and done players, but it may balance out as an overall whole.
Yeah, and I guess at the end of the day, going to the days of, people you can name, going to the days of the Fab Five or the Running Rebels or Florida when they went back to back or, I'll go as far as back as Houston when, Fire Slam and Jam. Those days are those kind of teams and names you can rip off are gone now, but will be even more dead, moving forward because you have people that are going to do one and done's have the option to just why bother going to college and could go right to the G League. If the G League is going to be much more of a developmental process for them. So, yeah, I agree. In the long term, Ace, I agree that college basketball will eventually fix itself and you'll kind of get back to something a bit more competitive, maybe like back in the 50s and 60s. But those days in the early, late 80s and early 90s of what we kind of grew up on, those days are, I think, far gone.
I agree with you on that.
I agree. But it'll be interesting to see what Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NCAA, how they're going to sit down and have a conversation, sit over a beer and talk and express how one's feel about their independent leagues. Switching gears ever so slightly, still talking about basketball. But recently, an article came out with Kevin Love and his battle with mental health issues, basically having panic attacks and different things, and how it's kind of affected his play recently. And as a whole, it seems as though more and more athletes, it's trickling out ever so slightly, where they're discussing their mental health statuses and how they're trying to cope and, next steps. What is your guys' take on Kevin Love? And I can't think of somebody else. I know there's others, but I can't think of other athletes off the top of my head. We can use, wide receiver. He was with Miami. No, hold on. Give me a second. Brandon Marshall. Brandon Marshall is one because he was having some mental health issues when he was with his first team in the NFL. He learned how to deal with it. He got on medication, and now he's an advocate of individuals who play sports and trying to deal with mental health. So, what do you guys' take concerning how athletes are now stepping to the forefront and really putting shining a light on themselves, letting individuals like you or I know that we're not alone in this situation. That even high-paid athletes are sitting there suffering just like everyday common blue-collar workers out there.
Maybe go ahead, Al.
Hey. It's yours. Go ahead.
I was going to joke and say, did he have these panic attacks before or after he got to Cleveland? But that's a joke. I mean, I guess it's brave of them or anybody to kind of admit those kind of vulnerabilities in themselves. I mean, mental health issue is a very serious topic and issue out there, and a lot of people have it and are afraid to say it. I think one person who comes to mind was I'm gonna get her name messed up. Shamika Holdsclaw from Tennessee, who had serious depression issues, and she went through a lot where she was basically out the league, and she went to jail for physical assault against her then time girlfriend. So I mean, mental issue stuff is real, and a lot of people keep it to themselves instead of talking about it because that's kind of a taboo subject, especially in a African American community. No one really talks about health issues and mental health issues in that manner. And so it's out there. A lot of people definitely probably do have it that we are not aware of. I mean, I give Kevin Love kudos for stepping out to the forefront and saying it. I mean, but it's a problem out there, and I think a lot more people should talk. A lot more people are going to be afraid to talk about that because you have endorsements, sponsorships, deals out there. So talking about that thing sheds a negative light on some people, and that's a wrong way to take it. But from a business standpoint, people want to make sure that they're people who are endorsing their products and that they're pushing, are kind of stand-up people. But and like I said, anybody out there who has those problems that can openly speak up about it, I definitely give them kudos and much respect to them.
Yeah, I completely agree. Anytime that you're in a position where you can be an advocate for something like this is very open. To be honest, I respect them a lot more for having the courage to come and speak out, because a lot of people out there that's dealing with it may not have an outlet or something like that. But to see people, that's out there who are NBA players or any type of athletes, to see that and see that they're going through the same thing, it's going to help those people that may not want to speak about it open up more. So kudos to him. It's always a good thing for someone like this to step out and be the voice, and so that others can be a voice as well and open up as well to any type of problem that they have. Hopefully this could be an example of them opening up as well. So kudos to Kevin Love for doing this, because a lot of people always keep those things bottled up inside, and if you don't let people know about the situation, how can we go to work on ways to correct it? So again, kudos to him for that.
I agree. I think there should be more. I think pro sports probably needs to do more concerning within the mental health community, mental health issues and topics. I'm sure they all touch it some way or the other, but maybe they need to take some of this money that they're raking in and kind of disperse it amongst different organizations and such to kind of help with the advocacy of different things. I know certain athletes probably use their own means to drive the efforts for certain things, but I think leagues should also get involved in it as well. Unfortunately, the NFL gets involved with concussion issues and things of that nature because it's something they can't avoid. So they give money to help with funding because they know they have a great product and they're not trying to lose the product. So of course they got to fund it. But this whole thing with mental health and this everything going on in the country and in the world concerning mental health. Talk about mental health and what's going on in the world is a whole different topic or a whole different conversation, but it could definitely help because a lot of people use sports as a refuge, as a way of getting away, taking their mind off of things that are going on in the world to enjoy. So it would only help if they were to, put some of their money where their mouth is and give to those different organizations out there to help those who might actually need it.
And I also see the NBA doing something as well to help step up their efforts as well. especially with Kevin Love coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if the NBA makes some type of donation as well, and do an awareness. I think Adam Silver is the type of person that will definitely take this and probably run with it in a good way, to say, hey, look, we need to be more aware about mental. You have to be more aware with mental illness and just getting things going on the right track, so that they could become more of an advocate and do something that's taking a step forward instead of waiting for something to happen.
Agreed. And one last topic quickly before I switch over to the NFL very quickly. Your boy Kobe won an Oscar. I think he's probably the first NBA athlete. I think he now has his leg up on Jordan.
That's a good way to get a leg up on Jordan, that's for sure.
I mean, Jordan still owns a team, but yeah, he doesn't have an Oscar, so he definitely
And Jordan started a movie. Just saying. But he ain't getting no Oscar for that.
That's the point. Now all Kobe has to do now is buy the 76ers, and then he'll be good to go.
And trust the process.
I'm just saying, like, if you want to really match up with Jordan, buy the Sixers.
And I'm sure that thought probably crossed his mind.
I'm pretty sure it did too. Pretty sure he did.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance. I have to look at his video short that he did. Ode to Basketball, I think was the title was. But yeah, he got an Oscar, and kudos. My hat goes off to him.
Mm-hmm. All right, and I hope if he does buy the Sixers, I hope he does a better job than Jordan Charlotte. Because
yeah, that's a different story. Talk about one of NBA's most disappointing.
They might as well go back to the old owner. Who's his name? Pat Croce?
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
At least when he owned them, they were hell exciting.
Wow. Grandmama and Company? Yeah.
No, that was Pat Croce with the Sixers. That was Iverson.
Yeah, that was Iverson.
You're talking about Philly. Philly owned it. Okay. My bad. I thought you were talking about
He was Mark Cuban before Mark Cuban.
Without the drama.
Without the drama, right? I'm sorry, continue.
Well, hey, what's the NBA without a little bit of drama? Switching gears quickly. The NFL. Well, we all know that the NFL Combine was this past weekend. I will be very honest with you. I did not sit there and watch the mind-numbing of running and jumping and cutting and throwing. But I did kind of pay attention to what some of the pundits were saying about certain athletes and things of that nature, and how a lot of these scouts. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to say scouts, but a lot of the media had their knee pads on for Saquon Barkley. Yeah, and I'm not saying that the dude isn't nice. The dude is going to be nice. Whoever gets him is going to be nice. But they were talking about so many different things that he did better than most, and past players were coming out saying, well, hold up. They said that he ran a faster 40 than Devin Hester. And then Devin Hester came back out and said, oh, yeah, but I ran that with sneakers on and I had a vest of hamstring. But then when I ran on my 40, I ran like a 4.3 something. And then, of course, they talked about Saquon Barkley's high jump, I guess, or, when they talked about his vertical reach. And he supposedly did it better than Julio Jones. And then Julio Jones came out and said, but dang, I did that with a broken foot. So it's just interesting how, all those guys have a real love affair with Saquon Barkley. But from what you might have heard or read or anything like that, is there any player or players that stand out, especially if you want to show some love to your respective teams, that who you would like to see possibly as a first-round pick for your team, based on what you might have read or heard?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Al.
In a nutshell, no, I haven't saw anything about the Combine. I do hear, to be honest, the Combine to me is not really end all be all of saying, oh, this guy's going to be special. We'll just see how everything plays out. To be honest, I'm looking for it more towards the draft than the combine, the results of the combine at this point. I mean, that doesn't really show me anything. Him running with them running the 40, then it's not like they're going to be doing it every game. So I don't really see the end all be all to it. So, I'll just look for it. To be honest, I'll just wait towards the draft. That's just my thing.
Like you raised historically, I don't really watch, the combine too much. I mean, it was on TV this weekend. I just happened to catch it. And when they had the QB and the wide receivers, and I looked at it only because the Giants had the second pick and they're trying to decide whether they want to go with Saquon Barkley, which I don't think they should, or they should go a quarterback, which I think they should, to see what's the big hubbub about these guys. The combine doesn't really show me anything that you couldn't have seen if you was watching college football all year, even until, the college bowl game. So for me, I mean, the only person that they said, quote unquote, did themselves good QB wise was Josh Rosen. Lamar Jackson, I don't think he threw, but he didn't want to do any wide receiver drills, which I thought was complete asinine that anybody out there would even insult them by saying, oh, why don't you run a couple wide receiver drills? Did you ask every other single quarterback that was in there to run some wide receiver drills? No, but you asked him, but that's a nice topic. Anyway, all the combine is just the NFL's another way of making money for itself, just like the draft now after Philly is going to be this big old explosion of stuff to make money off itself, when at the essence of it, draft is pretty goddamn boring, just like the combine is pretty damn boring.
Come on, man. It's your opportunity to sit there and watch your team shine. Look what happened in Philly when they had their incredible draft and this led them to a Super Bowl. Come on.
Oh my God. Let me tell you what happened in Philly, all right? First of all, half the people that was there was doing all the combine-esque stuff away from the thing. You had this big flood of people sitting there waiting to hear stuff. As soon as they said the Philadelphia Eagles have selected such and such with the 12th round draft pick, guess what happened in Philadelphia? Everybody that was in the draft left the draft. And that was it. So once Philadelphia said they picked their person, I was right there. I saw it when they picked their person, and I think they had like the 13th or 14th pick. 18th pick, I think it was. Everybody was waiting for that pick. You got to see all the stuff for the draft, which was actually interesting. I mean, really to do all the combine stuff, the jumping and the running and stuff like that for the kids and the fans. But to sit there and watch all that stuff, eating up your, $8, thing of beer and your $12 Philly cheesesteak, once they read off who the Philadelphia Eagles get, who we're going to pick, and they picked them, everybody that was there left.
So
the whole crowd literally left.
So I guess that's why when I was watching it, they didn't pan back out into the audience much, because everybody disappeared.
No, it was a flood of people rolling out once they waited for their team to get their pick, and then they bounced. That was it.
Because that's a long time just to be standing to sit there and watch something.
Exactly. Now, I give NFL kudos for putting up a lot of stuff to kind of give people something to do while you wait, in essence, for a very boring process. But still, I mean, for me, I'm hoping that the Giants pick a QB, and I really didn't see anything from these guys that really made me say, oh, wow, he's going to be good. I mean, I prefer my eye test in college football when they're playing against actual people running actual plays in a meaningful game than to see somebody run a 40, what they run their 40 and jump and how much they're going to bench press.
I agree. That's why I guess for me, that's why I have such a love for college football, just because of the pageantry and everything else. Again, that's another conversation, because you know how much I'm a homer for a specific team that I will not mention, WVU. But,
But you just won't mention that you just did. All right.
Oh, no, I won't mention WVU, but no, not at all.
Like you got the shirt on.
No.
I picked that out a while ago.
Like the shirt don't give it away.
Always got to show love. Shout out to the Raspy kids. Shout out. showing love to yet another fellow podcasting group dedicated to that WVU love. Anyway, but like I was saying, I love college football, and I agree with you, Earl. You know, this to me, the combine is just like a meat locker. You know, you measure, you see what they can do. You want to see what kind of grade A beef. You go from grade A to grade F. Grade F is those are the guys who are going to get the phone call that said we want to invite you to camp, but we're not going to draft you. Where grade A's are the first round and take it all the way down. So I did not like you guys. I didn't really watch much of it. I find it to be very, very, very boring. And of course, all the media pundits are just salivating over specific players and didn't really give you the opportunity to catch certain people that you might have wanted to seen in the combine. You know, especially if Kamiko Turry from Rutgers. If you just wanted to see how he was going to do, you never get the opportunity to see him because they were so concerned about Nick Chubbs or whoever else, the other DN or linebacker, that's supposed to be better than the team that you actually supported in college. So you don't get the opportunity to see how he kind of stacks up in that regard. So to me, it's just a waste of time. But.
And it's very unfortunate because, you know, it's not just all about a certain amount of people that's participating in the draft. You still have a whole list of people that participate in the combine, and you only get to see maybe 10% of all the players that participate. So if you're going to do that, and you should have at least an equal amount of time for everybody to see what the other people can do and talk about other people as well. Don't just be fixated on like 10 guys because not, you know, and to be honest, that's the problem with media nowadays anyway, because they're always stuck on the same guys and not talking about other people as well. So, I mean, that's just, you know, that's my opinion about that. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, the only name that I really heard about coming out the combine that was, I guess, a surprise to everybody was the kid Griffin from out of UCF.
Yeah. Right.
Ran a 4.3 or 4.38 in the 40. Wowed everybody. And now, I mean, for us, the casual fans, it's like whatever. But I guess for the players, a good combine day could raise your stock draft, you know, couple of, you know, positions, if not a couple of rounds. So
that's true.
So,
yeah, but if you're also an avid college football fan of college football, I should say, you have a team, but you actually love everything about college football and names that stand out. His name is nothing new. You know, it's just the fact that he's out there with no left hand out there and is a physical freak and just out there doing what he's doing. But he's just a natural. But he was on TV enough where you could see him play. Mm-hmm. I saw a couple of games where I saw him play. You know, and he was a force to reckon with. And, of course, he gave such a great performance that one particular team, I mean, I will see if you guys guess, interviewed him in full at the Combine. What team do you think interviewed him? If you had to guess. They're in the news right now because they're supposedly shopping a few players.
Eagles? No.
You got to think it's a defensive-minded team. Let me put it out there like that.
Seattle.
There you go.
Ooh.
Because think about it. Years back, you know, about 4 years ago, Seattle reached on Bruce Irvin in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And he put in work. They're used to going in there and reaching for players who they believe fit their system. And he's a dude that will fit their system. And I guarantee if Seattle has the opportunity,
and he's
they will rock the world and draft him first round because they believe in what he can do. You know, but that's just my 2 cents. I have no idea if that's going to happen or not, but it wouldn't shock me if it did happen. But fellas,
before you go, I thought you was going to talk about in the NFL about the Houston Texans.
Oh, the owner talking about he don't want to. Okay, but somebody else just came out and said the same damn thing.
So it's more than one team.
Yeah, but not indirectly. The dude from Houston was direct with that. Like he's like, yeah, I'm not. Oh, okay. So same with Seattle. You know, they're shopping Bennett.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're trying to, and they said the reason why they're shopping him because they're trying to reduce the noise.
Reduce the noise.
Bennett sat on the bench during the national anthem all season. So They said reduce the noise. That's just their way of saying we don't want to be bothered with any crap that he got to put up with. Houston is saying they don't want to be bothered with anybody that protests the flag. And there's another team who actually came out and said something that I'm really drawing a blank. And I'm going to actually go on Bleacher Report and find out what you guys get at.
Say, Earl, what do you think about that, though? About the Houston? Let's talk about Houston for that. Why Ace is doing that?
I mean, is it surprising? No, because I think under breath and behind closed doors, all 30 friggin' 2 owners are thinking the same exact thing. All of them not going to come out to say it, but a lot of them are thinking the same thing.
I'm sorry, it was Miami. Go ahead.
Miami.
That's interesting.
Now, I mean, there's nothing anybody's necessarily going to do about it. The commissioner is definitely not going to do anything about it. I mean, the owners can, unfortunately, say whatever they want to say. It's their team, their business. So they can kind of say, in essence, what kind of players they don't want to pick. I think is wrong. I mean, but it doesn't surprise me, and you know, doesn't surprise me.
I will say I agree with you. It's not surprising, but I will say this: you can't get upset if players don't want to come to you now. That's for sure. If you going out on a limb and say that you don't want people to come because of that, don't get upset when you're trying to recruit players, star players who take offense to this. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Because, you know, you are putting it out there. It's no different from, like you said, it's no different from other teams who may have thought the same way or thinking the same way. But the simple fact that you put it out there, you know, there could be players out there that could have thought about going to Houston as a free agent. They may not think about it now after the fact. So, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, they could or can't, but I'm just saying you're putting something out there now. So don't be afraid. Don't be be upset when you're trying to lure free agents and they put that out there as a reason why they don't want to be a part of your team or your organization. So, we'll see how that plays out, because you saying it, there may be some consequences to you saying what you said. So whether it's fans or whether it's players that may want to be a part of the organization, may have changed their minds now because of it. So
yeah, I mean, you and I both know, all of us know, that when that protest was going down, the owners hated it. They couldn't say anything about it, but they all hated it because they thought it affected their bottom line and all affected a certain demographic of people not wanting to watch TV. And then it kind of quieted down, and then the president injected more stuff in there, and then now it's all like, oh, well, you're coming at us directly, when he was actually really saying what all you 32 owners thought, but he kind of put your name out there in a bad way. So, you know, I had to kind of kowtow and want to kneel down in solidarity and lock arms. Give me a fucking break. That was all BS. What those guys said at the end of the day is what they all believe and thought. And they hated the protest from day one, before Trump opened up his mouth about it.
Agreed. Now, I was just reading where the owner from Miami is kind of trying to backtrack off his anthem comments, because it helps the whole Kaepernick collusion type of thing. Because now, if you're trying to stay away from certain players, Michael Bennett could possibly not get picked up because nobody wants to deal with the noise. Or certain other players may not get picked up because they don't want to deal with any circumstances or repercussions. So then it makes Kaepernick look like a real genius right now for putting in that lawsuit. And then it's going to make the owners look really, really bad. I don't think anything will come of it, because I don't think any team, because it's still up to the owner to decide if they want to sign Kaepernick. But I don't think anything will come up of it. But it'll prove Kaepernick's case that, there's collusion.
And somebody probably will sign him to the event to not make that story become a story.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, definitely be keeping our eyes out for that, because if there's 32 teams, that's 3 teams out of 32. So that leaves 29 teams that mum's the word, but probably agree with the other 3 owners that are coming out and saying that we don't want to be bothered with that.
But what makes it crazy is because they could have just easily not said anything and let it die down. Not saying that it would have died down completely, but if nobody wasn't saying anything in regards to this now, because it's the off season. So nobody's not even talking about it. But yet you open up your mouth now to say what you have to say, and now everything is brought back up. And now it could be even, like, the consequences could be even worse than what they are.
I agree. So it'll just be interesting. You got 3 owners that came out and said what they're going to say. Will there be a 4th? These owners all stick together. It's the good old boy network in the NFL with the ownership, you know what I mean? So they're going to say what they're going to say.
Sorry, Diddy. You're not going to buy the Carolina Panthers. Sorry. They ain't going to.
They ain't going to let you in.
Yeah, they ain't going to let you in. They don't
want no chicken and waffles and no Ciroc sitting at their tables during NFL owners meetings.
He can come with a package over the asking price, and they'll still be like, nah.
Better focus on the XFL.
True. And make it a better product than the NFL. Why not?
No, because big man thinks the same way those 3 others going. And he's vocal about it.
Same thought.
And he said it.
That's true.
Start your own league. That's the best way to do it. Start your own league. You get the players. You can recruit players that come and start and play for your league. Diddy, I'm talking to you. Start your own league. Don't try to get into a league that won't want you there. Start your own.
Ask Ice Cube with his big 3.
Exactly.
It's definitely took it off.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, fellas, it's about that time.
We way over.
Right.
Yeah.
You get to talking on certain topics, man. We'll just get to going, and before we know it, it'll be 11 o'clock. And I don't feel like falling asleep at my desk again. So it was actually during the meeting, but nobody caught me. Thankfully. I was weak. I'm sorry. I was weak. But fellas, again, it was fun. It was great. But, let the folks know where they can find you on your social media pages or page or anything or not.
Well, you can find me. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram. I am Al Qualls. Again, Twitter, Instagram. I am Al Qualls.
And you can find me on the gram and Twitter, JEROSS7 at.
Find me on Twitter, CatDaddy1963, CatDaddy1963 on Twitter. So next time, next Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel. Guys Talking Sports. We out.
God bless everybody. Good night.